Hey everybody, it's the trail end of the 2025 snowmobile season. We're just losing the last of our snow, and I thought before all of the snowmobiles that we had this year go back to the dealerships, we want to make sure that we get them on the scales, weigh them. In the past, you guys have been really interested in this stuff, and it created a lot of interest, a lot of comments. I know that people thought, hey, why are you guys, cheating on scales and whatnot? We are not. We are 100% legit here. I'm just pulling the sleds under. I'm making sure that they have full oil, full fuel, coolant, obviously, all of those regular things, making sure that there's no belt in them. But as they come from the dealership, that's how we're testing stuff. So it's low snow, so we know that the skid frames aren't going to be jam-packed full of snow. It's been warm here for the past little bit. We just got a dusting of snow, so there's not going to be extra weight on these sleds in any large regard. And we're just going to jump into it and see exactly what the weights are. You can go ahead and compare this back against the previous video that we did, see if things have changed. If they have, it's not because of us. We're literally weighing things as they sit. I don't care what brand you like. I'm just here to weigh these things, and I have no preference here. I'll be interested to find out what things do weigh. In the past, we had some really interesting numbers, and when you compare it to the manufacturer's numbers, yes, there are big differences. Sometimes they weigh without acid in the battery, without coolant, without oil, obviously without fuel. I don't know, maybe some of them take the oil out of the shocks too, any liquid whatsoever that they can find in the vehicle. I'm not sure. But at this point, we're gonna give you the actual real world SnowTrax sled numbers. Take it, leave it, whatever you want, but we're gonna jump into it. So up first, we've got the Lynx X-Terrain RE. This has the 850 two-stroke Turbo R. So it is the turbo two-stroke. Does have the 10.25 gauge, but I'm pretty sure with Lynx, that's just standard. This has, I think it's a 2-inch track. It might be a 2 1/4, but whatever it is, it's the big track. It is a 3700, so that's 146, I believe, and 146, 147. Yeah, and that is it. Toolkit is in it. It's full of fuel, it's full of oil, and it is full of booster juice as well. So that's another one we got to make sure of when it comes to the two-stroke turbos. Let's get it on the scale. $651.5. Up next, we have the Polaris Titan Adventure 650, 2-up seat, has the 7S display. It is the Cobra track. I believe that's a 1.6, and this is obviously the wide track. She's 20 inches wide. So this is going to be a lift, has mirrors. Yeah, let's get into it. Full of gas, full of oil, like I said before. And I'm not really too worried about the weight of the straps to pick it up. There's only 2 of them. You can deduct a pound if you want, 1.5 pounds. Let's get into it. That's 780.5 pounds. 780.5. Okay, so up next is what I expect will probably be the heaviest sled this season. This is a Grand Touring LE with the Platinum package. And it also is the 900 Ace Turbo R. And then out back, we have the silent ice track. So pre-studded, and it's a silent track. It also has the adjustable skis on it, the Pilot TS, I believe. And so I'm expecting that this is going to be heavy because it has that 4-stroke motor in it. Again, full of gas, full of 4-stroke oil. And that's that. Let's lift it up and see what it weighs. $694.5 pounds. That is surprising considering what the Adventure was. This is actually a very light 4-stroke. Okay, so the next one up is probably one that we're most interested to find out, and this is an XCR 9R 136. It has a Cobra 1.5 on it, I believe is what it is, and this does have a 7S display. So yeah, interested to see what the 9R weighs in at, because I haven't put one on the lift before, so let's find out. Okay, the Indy XCR 9R 136, 607.5 pounds. Okay, up next is the MXZ XRS 129 Ice Ripper track and Smart Shocks with the 10.25. So fully loaded. Let's see what this thing weighs in at, especially compared to the 9R. That'll be an interesting comparison. I know not exactly the comparo, but it is in a little bit. Looks like it's about 601 pounds. So something interesting to me is that the 9R XCR, yes, it's a 136. So that's something to be talked about, but this does have a pre-studded track, even though we have determined in the past that pre-studs don't add that much weight, but this has Smart Shocks. So if we took Smart Shocks off of this, you're probably gonna lose 5-7 pounds maybe. There's quite a bit of weight on there with each thing on each shock. So that's interesting to me because this is still, I believe, 6.5 pounds lighter than the 9R was. Yes, 136, this is 129, but still, very interesting. Skidoo sleds are pretty darn light. I'm super interested about this, especially after the last sled, which was a XRS 129 850 Smart Shocks with 10.25. This is a Polaris VR1, has the 7-inch or the 7S display. It is a 137, so obviously that's going to add a little bit of weight. And then it does have dynamics, which is interesting. It is a Patriot boost, so that boost motor we know is a bit heavy, but or a bit heavier than the naturally aspirated. So I'm just interested to see. I wish that I had a competition package Skidoo 850 turbo, but I don't right now. So we can always look at those numbers from last year and see roughly where they're at. But this will be an interesting lift, especially with dynamics on it. Let's see what it weighs. Looks like 608.5 pounds. So this is actually pretty surprising. This is only 1 pound heavier than the XCR, and this has dynamics. It's still a 37 like the XCR was, and it has the Patriot boost in it. So that tells me that the XCR, because of all the extra things that they put on it to make it stiffer and stronger, and the shocks on the XCR must be very closely weighed to the dynamics. They must not be that much different because they're a very high-end shock. So all those extra things they put on the XCR as well adds some extra weight to it. So interesting at how close these are, and that this vehicle is almost the same weight as the Skidoo 850 with Smart Shocks, non-turbo. So if you add the turbo to the Skidoo, it's going to be a bit heavier. That's pretty interesting. That means that, well, the Skidoo is also a 129, so you go to 136 or 137 on the Skidoo, it's going to add a bunch more weight. So this is actually, the VR1 is a very light sled, and this is telling me for 2026, we've already ranted and raved about this, the XCR is a much more ditch-banging, aggressive, harder riding sled next year because they went with that extra increase in spring preload and also in the compression on the shocks. The VR1 is the sled to buy for you people who want to go out and shred, ride hard, have a great time, push your sled hard from Polaris and really have fun out there on the trails. The VR1 is the one to go for 2026, and the weight penalty, it's not there. All right, up next is the Lynx Rave RE. This has the 600R E-Tech in it, does have the 10.25, and it is pre-step. 615 pounds even. So this is a Indy SP 137, no pre-studded track. It's the basic shocks, but they are still rebuildable. Actually, a really good sled. Doesn't have a 7S display. It's fairly basic all the way around, but actually these sleds come pretty well loaded. So I'm interested to see what this weighs at the fact that it's really a more basic sled. It is 650. I can't remember if I mentioned that. But this should be a pretty light sled. 137 is going to make it a bit heavier, but overall it should be pretty light. Let's lift it up and see. There's not a whole lot of extras to weigh a lot. Let's get it up there. Looks like about 584 pounds. All right, up next is the SRX Final Edition. This is IQS. This is power steering, not a pre-studded track. It's everything it can be because this is one package this year. So anyways, let's get this thing up and lift it. I do have a feeling that this is going to be a bit heavy because of that power steering and because of the IQS, but Maybe I'm wrong, because last year when we did some weights, I was wrong about Yamaha's weight. And I hope that I'm wrong again. It does have the adjustable handlebar riser, which I'm noticing now is blue anodized and looks super cool. I like that. That's pretty awesome. Let's lift it up. Looks like 682.5 pounds. Okay, so up next is the Neo Plus, and it comes as it comes. This is it. You can either get the Neo or the Neo Plus. This is the Plus, so better suspension, handguards, deeper lug track, better coloration, just a few little things like that. But Neo Plus, as it sits, full of fuel, full of oil, great sled. My daughter absolutely loved this. Teenagers love this sled. Newer riders love this sled. People who are not as confident, it's a little bit smaller, and I think it's going to be the lightest sled of the day, but let's find out. That's 491.5 pounds. So this thing is sub 500 pounds, and I know that maybe, you know, people are saying, wow, snowmobiles are heavy. This is a really light sled, and probably one of the only sleds that's going to tip in under the 500 pound range, unless you go down to like a single cylinder, you know, maybe a Arctic Cat Blast, like the you know, single cylinder 400, that might weigh in under 500 pounds. But when it comes to a 600, you know, EFI, fairly full-size snowmobile. Yes, this thing is pared down just a little bit, but this gives you a lot of fun. A full-size adult can still ride it. Under 500 pounds, it's pretty impressive. Okay, this is the Assault. It is the 9R 146 1.5 Cobra 7S display. Has the velocity shocks, but that comes from the factory. Fully loaded sled, one of my favorite sleds of all times. With the 9R, definitely raising the bar. Really great snowmobile. I have no idea what it's gonna weigh. Let's find out. Looks like 580 pounds to me. Okay, so here's the mind boggler of them all, and I have no idea. In fact, we weighed them both twice just to be sure that we were correct. This sled at 580 pounds is 4 pounds lighter than a 650 SP. Honestly, I'm gonna have to call the guys at Polaris and ask them what kind of magic. I mean, maybe they filled the 9R with helium, something like that, because this makes no sense whatsoever. This has velocity shocks. It's got a 144-inch rear skid in it. It's got velocity shocks out back. The 9R must actually be extremely light in this platform. In the XCR, obviously, it's a bit heavier because of the added performance features and the stiffening. But this is a really light sled, considering that the SP is 4 pounds heavier. I don't get it. Move on. I don't understand that. We weighed it twice. All right, Backcountry XRS 146. This is the 850 Turbo R 2-stroke. Does have the 10.25, the Pro 36 up front, EA3s. Yeah, it's got, I think it's a 1.5 track on this one. So I'll be interested to see what this weighs in comparison to what we just weighed, which was the Assault 9R that weighed in at 580 pounds. Right now, I don't know what to think. I wanted to say this would be heavier, but maybe it's gonna be lighter. I don't know, let's find out. I would call that 582 pounds. So at 582 pounds, this is, I don't even get it. So 582 pounds, full of oil, full of gas, full of booster juice. It's only 2 pounds heavier than a 9R Assault that does not have a turbo, does not have the booster juice. These are light sleds. These long track crossover sleds are really light. That's surprising. The Assault 9R and this, it's wild. This with an 850 non-turbo must be, I don't know, probably, it's gotta be with that rear tank of liquid and the actual turbo and all the stuff on the motor has to be a solid 12 to 15 pounds lighter than this. That's impressive. Good job, Skidoo. Man, I'm blown away, blown away. Next and finally is an Indy Adventure S4 137 7S display, TS5 Polaris shocks, 2-up seat, rear storage bag, and it has a, looks like a 1352 Cobra on it, might be a 1.5, but it's got the HD bumper on it. This is an S4. It's gonna have some weight to it. So it's got the mirrors on the side, it's got nicer graphics and paint. I think this is gonna be a heavy sled, and you know what, Polaris doesn't argue with that. They don't say that it's a light 4-stroke. So let's see where it weighs in. I'll be interested against the SRX, because I think even though this has a 2-up seat, we could pop the 2-up seat off. It probably weighs 12 to 15 pounds. Take that off, and I think this is still gonna be heavier than the SRX. Let's find out. Oh, I felt that. Looks like 706.5 pounds. So at 706.5 pounds, that means that the Yamaha SRX with power steering, with a 1000cc 200 horsepower engine, with a heated seat, with electronic shocks, with all the stuff that it comes with, is actually 24 pounds lighter than this sled. So the S4 isn't light. Again, Polaris never claimed that it was. It's just interesting to find out just how light a Yamaha has been in comparison to the rest of the competition's 4-strokes. Now, Skidoo 4-strokes are actually quite light. I have been surprised with them. They've been doing a really good job too. Interesting to see what the differences are. So that's the end of our weigh-in for 2025, end of season. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll bring some specs up on screen. You can see what everything was. We can compare against a couple of last year's sleds and see if there was many differences or what's changed. Again, we're not out here to trick anybody. We're not out here to come up with magical numbers or add extra weight or put a brick on the back, anything. It's just the weight is what the weight is. I wish that I did have a catalyst here. Yes, I want to have one. And I think in the very near future we will, and we'll get one up on a scale again. But for right now, this is the weight. And yeah, I hope you find it interesting. Leave some comments down below, and we'll do it again next year. Hope you have a good summer.